Plaintiff David Lewis says he's been friends with the defendant for 20 years, and the defendant even introduced David to his first wife. David claims when he was going through his divorce, he asked the defendant to store some of his property, but instead of returning it, the defendant burned it all in a bonfire, and he has the pictures to prove it. He's suing for the damaged property. Defendant Kevin O'Reilly says he was friends with both David and his now ex-wife, and he was often put in the middle of their divorce. Kevin admits that he threw David's belongings into a bonfire, but insists it was only because David abandoned the property.
Tell me what happened.
I've known Kevin for about 20 years. We go way back where they kind of do anything for each other 1 o'clock in the morning if he needed something or if I needed something. He introduced me to my ex-wife back in the mid-90s.
Your ex-wife?
Yes, sir.
In the mid-90s?
Yes, sir.
When did you divorce?
It was final of April of this year.
That's how many years?
Almost 10 years.
Oh. Did you enjoy the marriage?
2 great kids out of it.
So you enjoyed the marriage?
Absolutely.
So why'd you divorce?
More good times than bad times.
Why'd you divorce?
Ask her. She filed for divorce.
Ooh. Go ahead. What else you want me to know about your friendship?
I've gone so far as bailing him out of jail in the middle of my divorce, and I had a rather ugly, bitter divorce. Kevin stored quite a bit of my furniture, some of my belongings at his house. She offered to do that for me because I was going from a 3-bedroom house to a smaller apartment.
I'll let him get some background, then I'll get back to you.
Okay.
Basically, I've known Dave, like you said, 20 years, introduced him to his wife, going through a messy divorce. I was also friends with his wife. And so there was a lot of things that he did which caused grief for me and her, you know, and I'm like kind of like in the middle trying to solve everything. So, for example, he would go into her house.
You were trying to solve everything?
Well, I was just trying to, you know, be the intermediary person.
Next time refer him to Dr. Phil because it didn't work out.
Right.
Whatever you were trying to do, your counseling or your resolution, go ahead.
So he would, it was like this struggle she had to make sure he couldn't get in the house. He kept going into the basement, and for example, he would take the whole left side of her china cabinet. Not any particular part of it or anything, just the whole left side. So she's sitting there on her dining room table, looks up, and the whole left side's gone. And a lot of times I was there with them, you know, when they're going through all this, and I'm just like, let's get your furniture or whatever, and let's go. So he leaves all this furniture with me. It's only supposed to be for a short period of time, maybe a month or two. It goes 6 months, basically into a year. And
okay.
so
let me get to him because it sounds like that might be what the lawsuit involves, the damaged property.
This all came to a head when I have a collection of vintage Italian bikes, a collection of Vespas and Lambrettas. And Kevin came across a small scooter that somebody gave him. I told him I'd store it with the rest of my collection of motor scooters. I probably had it somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 or 9 months. And probably in August, he said, Dave, you know, if you just want to keep it, you can keep it. I don't want it. It's an eyesore to me. 2 weeks later, I sold it to somebody for 150 bucks. Didn't think anything of it. Didn't tell Kevin because I didn't think it was any kind of big deal. So he finds out about it. He's sitting in the bar and somebody pulls up on it at the bar. And he just absolutely went a little ballistic when he found out that I had sold this motor scooter that he said I could have. Probably about a week and a half later, Kevin is at his house, has a few friends over, drinking a little bit, and decides that he's going to take all my belongings and burn them.
How long did you leave them there? Because it sounds like he's going to say you abandoned them. How long?
I want to say probably 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe at the most.
And what was the nature of you all's discussion when you first allowed him to store it, and how long did you intend to leave him there?
There was never any discussion, same as with the motor scooter. He's told me that I could store my belongings there as long as I needed to. Same thing with me storing his motor scooter. There was never any discussion as to a time frame as to how long that I would be storing this motor scooter for him. A friend of mine told me that he was over at Kevin's house, and Kevin got into a little tizzy. He had been drinking, had tizzy, and it's like, to heck with Dave, I'm just going to burn his belongings.
I see it.
And
well, you must have really been upset. Sir, you
friend of mine took the
say him
pictures.
selling your scooter, that really burned you up, huh?
well,
so you decided to return the favor. Lord,
it didn't exactly go like he said.
That's a pretty big fire, Your Honor. That's not just a couple logs.
Right.
That's a lot of furniture.
Very clearly.
There's more Judge Mathis after this.
People ask me when I'm going to run for office or whether I'm going to run for office because I seem to see clapping. I said, no, I'm not running for office. No, I promised my mother years ago I'd never return to a life of crime. So...
Wednesday on Judge Mathis. A computer glitch?
The night that we broke up, he threw my laptop out the door.
The laptop might have dropped repeatedly, yes.
Wednesday on Judge Mathis.
Plaintiff David Lewis is suing his former friend because he claims the defendant agreed to store his property, but instead he burned it all in a bonfire. And David has the pictures to prove it.
Go ahead, sir.
Well, the scooter, for example, we never discussed that he could have the scooter or could sell it or anything. And then a guy pulls up on the scooter at a local bar we go to and tells me, oh, yeah, I got this from Dave. And I'm like, holy cow, how much did you spend for that? He's like, I didn't think I can get a scooter for under $1,000 bucks. And yeah, I kind of lost a little bit. And I did give him several warnings. I said, you need to get your stuff out, you need to get your stuff out. That week in particular, I was like, every day I was calling.
What did he say?
Well, a lot of times he wouldn't respond to me. He just wasn't responsive at all.
Did he ever respond?
No, he did not respond.
You said a lot of times.
That week, he did.
When you say a lot of well, when?
In August, I was trying to find out what was going on with the scooter. I didn't know if he had done a deal and he was going to give me some money for it. And so it wasn't right away that it festered and kind of built up. It was after he blew me off as far as to the value of the scooter. On that week in particular, I just called him every single day.
When is that?
Probably the first week of September.
So 1 month later, you say, come and get your things. You speak to him, and what does he tell you?
He's like, I'll get to him when I get a chance. He still didn't have a place for them to go to.
Okay. And next time, when did he speak to you about it?
We saw each other every Wednesday. We go on a weekly bike ride with the scooters. It was on that following Wednesday. So I think I called him on a Monday, and then on a Wednesday when I saw him personally.
About mid-September.
Right.
Was there another time?
Probably the following week at the next Wednesday ride.
Okay. What was he telling you?
He just said he didn't have a place for it, or he'd get to it as soon as he could. Basically, he didn't have a place for it.
And so why did you dispose of him?
The week in particular, I called him, well, actually the day in particular, I called him that day. And I felt he really wronged me on the scooter. There's a whole lot of other things that, you know, through the years he kind of upset me with. But that was kind of like the icing on the cake. And so that particular night, I called him around 5 o'clock and I said, you've got an hour to get your stuff.
What did he say?
He never picked up.
And how long after that did you burn his things?
Probably around 8 or 9 o'clock that night.
So what's your defense, sir?
I feel that he abandoned the property.
Okay. You have any estimates?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
We only spoke once.
this is 08, right?
Yes, sir.
So within 2 months you burned his things, or a month and a half.
Yes,
almost.
sir.
Yeah. That's not abandonment, sir. Month and a half is not abandonment. And that wasn't proper notice. Come over here in an hour. You just wake up out your sleep in a bad mood and call somebody and say, come on over here in an hour, else they're going up in flames. No, sir, that's not abandonment. If you had given him 30-day notice and said, if you don't get your things within 30 days, I will consider them abandoned, then you could have put them up in smoke. If that's what you wanted to do with them. But it's not abandonment, sir, within a month, and then you calling him and saying you have an hour, that's not abandonment. $4,200 for the plaintiff. Have a good day.
Thank you, Your Honor.